Some of them, again, without giving examples, so that we don't have a big debate here. But it's true that harm is haram, and عضل ولا تعضلوه إلا لتذهبوا بعض ما آتاكم. Do not force them to a narrow road. We see it in the community sometimes. A woman is forced, cornered in a particular way, so that the man gets some benefits out of that. I want to also cover just a couple of points before we go, inshallah. I want to cover groups as well, because as you read in here, if you're going to take the themes to be mentioned, the stories, the similes, the creation, the laws, you will start to see groups. Groups of people that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is defining, and He's defining the groups based on the context. Because, alhamdulillah, in the Arabic language, they are all from the same root. They are not different words, they are not different names given to different entities. So the group is tied to the concept. So you see, there is stealing and there is a thief. Stealing is one thing and thief is another thing. But in Arabic, it's saraka yasriqu saraq, and so forth. There is, and that is important because the concept is defined clearly in the Quran, and hence the group that is tied to the concept has to be tied to the meanings of the Quran. So al-hukm, for example, is another one of those complex concepts. Al-hukm, in al-hukmu illa lillah. Hukm, you can translate it simply as governance, but hakama yahkumu is a big deal. It's not al-hakim. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, one of His names, in al-hukmu illa lillah, He has the governance, or He has, and then the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam as a hakim, لتحكم بينهم وإذا حكمت فاحكم بينهم بالعدل إن الله يحب بالقسط إن الله يحب المقسطين. And then الحكم for the people وإذا حكمتم بين الناس أن تحكموا بالعدل. And then ومن لم يحكم بما أنزل الله فأولئك هم الكافرون. Those who do not judge, I guess now حكم would be judge here, by what Allah has sent, that they are the disbelievers, they are the oppressors, and they are the sinners, according to Surah Al-Ma'idah. And then there is Al-Hukkam as a group. ولا تأكلوا أموالكم بينكم بالباطل وتدلوا بها إلى الحكام. Do not allow the rulers to take some of your wealth in falsehood. For a quick translation here, and that is a very important verse that talks about the public wealth, basically, and the role of governors and rulers and so forth. Therefore, you cannot really see al-hukam here in isolation from the other kinds of hukum that you have in the Quran. And then al-hukm is tied to the shura, and it's tied to taqwa, and it's tied to rahmah, and it's tied to al-adl or equity, and it's tied to a number of other concepts. So that web logic that you have of al-hukm will start to give the dimensions of the governance here. You have a lecture, by the way, on Thursday on governance from a maqasid perspective. I advise everyone to attend. I forgot to tell the sheikhs, inshallah I will. Because that is an application of this methodology. Objectives, the concepts, and so on. Its application on a higher level that is actually beyond a PhD, because you can apply this methodology to a master's thesis and take some aspects, or you can apply it to a PhD thesis and spend 3 or 4 years to do it, or you can apply it at a professorship level, as you will hear on Thursday, because that level is a level of asking the basic questions of a particular science, which we will have a whole lecture about under the theme of restructuring disciplines based on the maqasid methodology. And that's what you see if you attend that lecture, inshallah, on Thursday.
What time?
At what time? 5:30. 5:30, right? Here in this room, 5:30 to 7. It's a lecture on a maqasid approach to policy making, giving an example from pharmaceutical companies and IP policy particularly. and this will be given by Dr. inshallah. Now, let me also cover a couple of them. Values, if you look at the Quran, we'll discuss that more next time, inshallah. You will see different kinds of values. For in Arabic, we could call them al-qiyam. What is valuable, what is prior, what has a value in English, or in Arabic would be qima. In the Quran, there are 3 types of that, and then you start to analyze the different kinds of concepts, different kinds of values, and we discuss that extensively next time, and perhaps even the time after. Values could be values of manfa'a, or utility. There could be also values of morality, or khuluq. It could be values of beauty, or jamal. And that is, our own classification here. There are other types of classification of values. But according to the induction logic that we apply to the Quran in these 3 categories, the value of utility is what benefits you. But value in Islam is not just utilitarian logic. Utility is one aspect of it, and it doesn't go by the extremities of utilitarianism in just considering numbers and all of that and maximizing utility. It doesn't deal with public good like that, but utility, nevertheless, the material utility, is one of the values that the Quran talks about in a number of ways. Values are also manifested in morals, or morality, or good. What is good? Yes, please. Oh, what is good in Islam? The old question, and that is basically tied to the following of the examples of the prophets. What is good in Islam, according to our reading of the Quran and the Sunnah of the Prophet, is not defined by a philosophical argument of the universality of good, or like to universalize a certain aspect and see if everybody is going to do that, or this kind of thing, Newtonian way of doing it. And it doesn't go by a relativistic approach, and it doesn't go by a, might is right, the Greek way, and it doesn't go by any of the other schools. And in fact, all of the other schools, and I wrote a paper on Dr. Ismail Farouqi's PhD thesis that was titled On Defining Good. He wrote a whole PhD in philosophy on what is good, how to define good. And he ended up concluding that good is defined according to the example of a prophet. And that is very Quranic, by the way, to me, because he proved philosophically that every other argument of good is going to end up with relativism. And relativism, as you know, is not Islamic, because at the end there are universal values in Islam. So morality, and of course the other very important work that you will find reference to in your notes is the work of Sheikh Muhammad Abdullah Draz on the moral world of the Quran, which is basically his theory of morality of the Quran by studying the Quran very well and coming up with 5 pillars of morality. And there is a good summary of that as well that our doctora here has done, also on the internet you could find, published in Malaysia, of Sheikh Draz, because Sheikh Draz's PhD was first written in French, secondly was quite complicated. He dealt with a lot of philosophical and fiqh issues, which in her summary or abbreviation of the book has removed the fiqh debates and the philosophical debates and kept Sheikh Draz's theory only to the 5 pillars and added a couple other points. You will find it published once in Malaysia and once in the UK. We have copies as well. If you need a copy, I can send you. So Sheikh Draz and Dr. Farouqi, to me, have contributed the most to the theory of morality in Islam in the past decades. And of course, are very important books in the Arabic language, especially on Islamic morality, Sheikh Wanaka al-Maidani, our Sheikh, Sheikh Muhammad al-Ghazali, Sheikh Akhlaq al-Islamiyya, al-Hashimi. There are a number of books. If you say Akhlaq al-Islamiyya, you find a few dozen books that are written on the Islamic morality. The most in-depth to me are Sheikh Dr. Farouqi's and Sheikh Draz's approaches to morality. Third, beauty as a value is something that is understudied really in the Quran. The theory of aesthetics, I mean to speak the modern language, in the Quran is understudied. There is so much related to the field of concepts related to beauty in the Quran. Al-Husn, Hasana Yahsun, Ihsan, Yuhsin, Muhsinin, etc. Al-Ihsan in the dealing with animals, Al-Ihsan in Al-Talaq, Al-Ihsan in Al-Salah, Al-Ihsan in al-Deen in general. Al-Ihsan is a big deal, and it's all about beauty. Al-Jamal also is a Quranic word. It's all about beauty. Zina, زانا زينوا زينة إن جعلنا مع الأرض زينة لها حتى إذا أخذت الأرض زخرفها وزينت. Zina is also one of those concepts. In next time we discuss the fields of concepts. The fields of concepts are very important because they define circles of meanings here that deal with particular issues. In the Quran, there is also zukhruf, which is like an apparent. Zukhruf